What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you again for another week of picks here on Every Day We're Covering. We are here. It has arrived. The college football playoff is a reality. We get to watch some teams duke it out on home turfs here this weekend to try to earn their way on to that quarterfinal round. It's a glorious time for college football, SJ.
Yeah, I know it's unfortunate with the way the things, kind of the news of the day in college seems to be, portal, portal, portal. But we actually have some games of meaning to take care of here, so that'll be nice to get back to the on the field stuff. Because could you imagine if we still had until whatever a month before the championship was played? They're not. That's this transfer news is gonna put those other bowls. That's gonna be like second second hand to this type of news. So it's nice to have these big games, and then we'll just kind of move on from that, and let's talk about what kind of matters on the field. I know you got to have players, but it's a little bit chaotic this last couple of weeks with keeping track of who's playing for who and who's going where and who's even on your team in the bowl. It's a little bit wacky, even more so for people that are in favor of giving the players more options.
Yeah, it is going to be a little bit awkward, I think, after this first round. Obviously, when there's some very good teams that like their season's already over, and you're expecting them to still play like 2 weeks from now, kind of deal. But yeah, I mean, whatever. We're going to take that because we're getting big games now, and then the beauty of it is you also get to filter in some of these other days with these little, other smaller bowl games just to keep the appetite wet. And then, man, yeah, we got a good run going here, so this is going to be awesome. We've already had some decent bowl games here. There's some going on here as we record this right now. So this is going to be a lot of fun to take all this in. And I think for especially this first round, like we talked about before, like just being able to see what these atmospheres are going to be like, because it's just going to be like the best of college football.
Well, speaking of some of the news that's leaked out, it's a lot of it I've seen is like some uniform speculation. Penn State's already called for a whiteout, which is always a big deal for them. So that like when you speak of the atmospheres, that's kind of the type of stuff that's been talked about too. It's like, what's it really going to be like when you're playing a road game, but it's more than just a road game. It's actually like the where you want to be. I guess the main playoff, the whatever, the big dance. What we got to think of a name for it. I don't know what we
Yeah.
want to call it. I mean, first four is taken, so you can't really use that here. Maybe I don't know. I'm sure somebody will will come up with something that'll stick here in the next couple of years. But yeah, it's it's the real deal. But it may seem odd at first, but we'll make adjustments to get used to. But it's going to be. I do hope there's some weather involved because that's kind of that was always the thing for any teams up north. It's just like, I mean, it was always an unfair advantage. The way I saw it is, not only you're playing closer to where you're located, but it's indoors or climate controlled, or just going to be nice weather, so that's not even a factor. And I know you don't want something where it's like a monsoon or a blizzard where it just like ruins the game, but at the same time, like weather is a part. Like football is like a game that weather is kind of mixed in there. It's part
Mhm.
of the elements there, so you can't just like erase it and think you're gonna have perfect conditions because that to me that's not like the true essence of the game. Like, okay, maybe it's a nice day, but you to like actually like prevent that, to me that takes a little bit away from it. And
Yeah.
obviously, like I said, we don't want terrible weather, but maybe a 30 degrees with a couple flurries, we'll be good with that.
Yeah, it's a nice variable, and of course, we're used to seeing it at the top of the sport. In the NFL, we've seen it forever. So I think that's what's going to, yeah, help this out too, create some more drama and intrigue for these games. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with the big games here in the college football playoff, and then we might sprinkle in a couple of little extras here for you as well here at the end. But of course, it starts with a Friday night contest. So there's one game on Friday night in the first round, and that's that good old state of Indiana championship here as the Hoosiers head up to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. Right now, I'm showing it as Notre Dame being a 7-point favorite, the number at 51.5 here in this contest. SJ, where are you going here with this one?
Man, this is one of those. I mean, it's easy to say with all of them. It's like, man, you could see it going either way, just because it's like not common opponents. It's new to everybody, like with the home sites and teams that don't, haven't, a lot of them haven't played. That's just, I mean, you understand why with Notre Dame being independent, just like the Indiana has not been a great team very often, or even a good team in recent times. So it's like, why would they play? But it's crazy that teams in the same state like never play. To
Yeah.
me, that's a little strange. Like, maybe once every 5 years, a couple times a decade, you would think that at least like in a non-conference meetup, but they just never play. So we get to see that, which is nice. Uh, I honestly like, and it doesn't make me feel good to say this because I'm not a fan of them, but I think Notre Dame's a little bit too much for Indiana. I know they've had a good season, they've done a lot to impress, but the thing with and I think you're on in the same boat with me is just when they've played a team of consequence and someone that could match up with them or maybe be better than them, it did not look good for Indiana. I know that was a one game scenario, but we've seen Ohio State against other teams, even lesser teams than them, and they haven't always been there and brought their A game. So that just sticks in my mind a little bit. For the simple fact that this bowl season's been wacky, and I know technically these aren't bowl games, but with uncertainty and kind of the upsets, I'm not thinking Indiana's going to win, but there's a chance and a pretty slim chance, but I think maybe they could keep it close. So I will play the total. I got 51. So I don't have to worry about the hook on that one, but I'll play that total. But with all that said, I expect Notre Dame to have a pretty easy night, all things considered.
Yeah, that's I guess my kind of thoughts. Like you said, we're on the same track here. Indiana in that big moment earlier this season just wasn't able to kind of rise up to the occasion, so to speak. Yeah, unfamiliar territory for them. Certainly going to be a lot of emotion involved, just from their perspective. I'm sure, their fans are probably trying like hell to get into this game because it probably feels
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
once in a lifetime scenario here. I mean, and
Wouldn't you
why
imagine
not?
if they knock them off? Who knows when they're going to play again? You'd have bragging rights for how long?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No kidding. Yes, so they're going to be juiced. That's for sure. And Notre Dame obviously always has a good home atmosphere, and I'm sure it'll be extra amped up for a moment like this as well. Um, and I think you take away from that game earlier in the year, obviously, because Notre Dame had their own slip up against a
Right.
team that they should have beat. But it does seem like they had learned from that. They played much better after that moment. Yeah, maybe the pass game is a little bit to be desired. I don't think Leonard's turned into the throw it out QB that they wanted him to be when he came in, but he still runs the ball well enough, and they've got some backs that can really run the ball. I mean, granted, Indiana's done a pretty good job of limiting the run this year, but again, who has been those guys that they're trying to slow down? It hasn't always been, the toughest backfields to try to slow. So I think this is where that Notre Dame's going to be able to break through, win that line of scrimmage a little bit, grind it out, grind the game down, wear Indiana out. So even if it is close for a while, which I kind of expect it to be, I do think Notre Dame's going to be able to pull away and cover the 7. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame laying the 7. I think they win, at least by kind of that 10-14 range here is what I'm feeling. So I'm going to go with the Fighting Irish. But yeah, I mean, obviously all these we probably from a fan perspective hope that they're fun, entertaining games to
Yeah.
watch. But that's where I'm going with the play here on this one. Next game that will be up on the CFP slate will be the early breakfast kickoff here at 11 o'clock for SMU at Penn State. Like you said, the whiteout atmosphere there at Beaver Stadium. You'd love to see that opportunity at night because that's always fun there. But like you said last time we talked on the podcast, it ain't going to matter to Penn State fans. They're going to be up early, cracking a cold one at 5 a.m. to get ready for this bad boy. So this will be a fun game. 53.5 is what I've got showing here is the total. Penn State laying 8.5 is what I see right now from my end. And I don't know. I was a little bit back and forth on this at first because I do think that SMU's got the chance to hit some big plays at times because that's the kind of offense they are. If they can do that early, then maybe that changes the complexion of how this goes. But if they get behind, I think it's going to be a big problem because Penn State really showed last week, that they can get the offense cooking a little bit more than people gave them credit for, I think. Granted, yeah, it hasn't been overly consistent all season long in that regard, but when you're playing your best at the right time, that probably bodes pretty well. And Drew Aller, I think, is going to have pretty good opportunity to go downfield in this game because SMU is a little bit susceptible to the pass on the defensive side. They've been pretty good at getting to their tight ends there at Penn State. So I think that they're going to have a heyday moving this thing up and down the field. Again, if SMU can hit some big plays, maybe they hang around for a while. I know that's a little bit more points that I'd probably love, and most gamblers love in any game, no matter what. But I'm still going to take Penn State here to lay the 8.5. I think they win by 14 at least here at the end of the day. So I'm going Nittany Lions. What are you thinking here?
Basically, all this, piggyback off you, and I'm right there, and just there's no way. I just can't see. I mean, not only is the home field deal, but I do Penn State's just. I mean, look who they've played. They played Ohio State, USC, Oregon. Like they just more battle tested, if what term you want to use. And I know that's nothing SMU can do about their schedule. And I mean, they did play well in the championship game, a little bit better than I thought, maybe in a couple weeks too. But I just don't. I think this is one where the home field is going to be playing more of a factor, and I do think SMU is going to get down early, and it's going to get out of hand. They may make a run late to make it a little bit more respectable, but I don't think they can get within 10 points. So I'll take the 8.5 as well. Like I'm glad this is the first game on Saturday, and might be by design, because I think this could be probably a little bit of a snooze fest here once we get into it. Of course, everyone's going to be hyped, leading into it. And we're going to have a good build up, but this may not end great for SMU. I mean, obviously we want them to cover that 8.5, but if it's closer, within, less than 10, that's fine. Let's just cover that number. But I don't want to see a lot of blowouts. We want to be entertained as much as possible, but I don't see how it's going to play out in SMU's favor. Maybe if it was a neutral side, I might feel differently, but I think Penn State's actually they don't seem like it, but I do think this may be one of the better teams that Franklin's actually had.
Yeah, and like you said, home field and conditions certainly favor them in a big way here in this game. Next game that'll kick off at 3:00 in the afternoon here our time is the Clemson at Texas contest. I'm showing Texas as a 12-point favorite. The number at 51.5 is what I have here. SJ, what are you looking at here in this one?
This was one I was actually, saying I don't want to call out upset, but I was a little bit leery of this one as far as the favorite goes. I just have been a little in the games that I've seen Texas, they've left a little bit out there, at least especially offensively. And I know Georgia's a good team, but that last game was a little bit I mean, I guess if you're a fan of him, I'd be concerned. You have the backup quarterback come in and come from behind and beat you. I know the starter went back in, but he was basically by emergency necessity. They had no plans to put him in. It sounds like he's done for. They're kind of putting calling it off here, and he's not going to be able to even play in there even with another week to get ready for the second round. So I wanted to I wanted to kind of throw him a bone here, but I'm like, I still don't see Clemson winning. I do think they'll stay within that 12 though, so I'll take the points. That's a fairly sizable number, even if it ends up being like a backdoor cover type of thing. I don't really. I mean, I know early in the season they didn't, and even with some lesser teams, but I don't. At this point in the season, I can't just blow out like a huge, huge victory. 10 points, I could see that. So I'll take the 12 and play it safe. Earlier in the week, I kind of wanted to pick Clemson outright, but I think I was just a little bit coming off that championship game. I was a little bit leaning into that too much. So I'll use my level head and hope Clemson can stay within 12.
Yeah, I'm with you. The more that I thought about this game, as far as if I were to go the route of the line, that's a lot of points. I mean, in any game, and especially in a game like this. So I would feel pretty decent about taking Clemson to get the points. I do still think that Texas is going to find a way to win this game. I like I said last time we talked about it, I just think they've been a little bit more of the more consistent team throughout the year. Clemson has had more of the low lows at times this season. So I think that Texas is going to find a way, especially, being there at home, that helps. But I'm going to go the number on this one. I think it just kind of sets up that this isn't going to be much of a high scoring affair. Texas has been the last 3 games, it's been 20 or less. I think that they've scored. So, and Clemson's not necessarily been a juggernaut when they played big teams. So, I just don't see offenses winning the day here in this one. This is going to be a defensive type of game, and 51.5 is still a decently high number when you expect teams to struggle to score a little bit. So I'm going to go under that 51.5 and go that route here on this game.
Well, and Texas got to be the more same thing with the last game, more tested team. They by far played much tougher schedule, so that's why I just I can't go that upset route. Although I wanted to, but we'll see here. Who knows? It's get wacky here. Let's hope we got to have an upset or two. We'd hope some.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not against our picks, but at some point, something's got to happen just because of the newness of it, the uncertainty, and just the matchups that we don't always see.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know that something's going to go wild here for sure. We'll see where it comes from, but yeah, that's
kind of Boise or something like that,
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. Go that way.
Hey, Arizona State, even I would take. I mean, I know at least it represents your conference. I know it's.
I'd be all right with that. 7 o'clock kickoff then to wrap it up in the first round on Saturday night, and we'll go to the Horseshoe there. It should be a very brisk evening there in Ohio as Ohio State welcomes in Tennessee. And I've got Ohio State showing as a 7.5-point favorite, the number at 46.5. So I think maybe that weather is factoring into that number there a little bit as far as the total is concerned. I guess I'll start on this one. I do think this is going to be a fun game. I think, and we talked about that from the get-go when the matchups came out. This on paper, this looks like the one that might be the most enticing to watch. And I think just from a general talent standpoint too, you've got two teams that, do some things really well when they're playing well. Now, granted, for Ohio State, that hasn't been as of late. So they've got to overcome that. And certainly the way this game starts, I think, is very important for them because they've already got an anxious fan base to begin with. And, if it goes sour at the beginning of the game, that might not be helpful. But, Tennessee fans, by all accounts, so far, what we've heard is going to be in full force here as well. They bought a lot of tickets and will be there. But I just see this being a tight game. I think it's going to come down to like a field goal type situation. I don't see one team blowing the other out. And that's why I'm going to get, when they're going to give me 7.5, I'm going to take it. So I'm going to go Tennessee getting those points just because I think it's a close game. And I don't know. At the end of the day, like I said last time, I think, some of those offensive players might win out for Ohio State to make a play to win it, but I would not be shocked to see Tennessee win this game either. So, but that's where I'm going with it. How about you?
I'm with you that I think it's going to be probably the closest game and maybe even the best game of the whole, this whole first weekend of the playoff. But that number you mentioned how low it was, the total, that I couldn't avoid playing it. I was like, that's nothing with the offenses that these teams have. So I understand the weather could factor and all that, but I think even with just how explosive that these teams are, they're going to cover that number easily. So I'll take over 46.5 on that one. I don't know who's going to win. Could be close. I think Ohio State will play better than most people think. I think they're kind of in that rally mode maybe, and that's when they've actually done better, I think, in recent history. I'm not going to say it's going to be a coaching, give that credit to the coach, but at the same time, I think it's going to be a really close game, and I could, win it by a field goal, and then there you go, you covered, and let's hope it's like 30-27. We'll both be happy.
Yeah. Well, and as long as nobody's got a chance to plant a flag at center field at the end of this thing, then we'll be okay.
Yeah. I don't think that bill passed yet, but it's in the process that takes some time, right?
I keep seeing the stuff online. The Tennessee fans are having fun. They keep drawing maps on like this is where we're going to take the post from the stadium and go throw them in the river. Like they keep drawing these things and just try to work them off. That's the fun gamemanship of all this stuff too. Fans are going to have a heyday with all these games in the playoff. It should be a good time. So that's what we've got for the CFP games. I know we both had kind of looked at a couple of other things here that we might look to play here this weekend. My one little bonus that I'm going to go with and well, you won't probably have a whole lot of time to do it once I get this video to you. But it's an early game on Friday. They're at the Cure Bowl, and I'm going to go with the Ohio Bobcats. They've been playing well, obviously, or lately. They showed up big time in the championship game. They're playing a Jacksonville State team that doesn't have their coach anymore. Old Rich Rod heading back to West Virginia. So they're only laying 5. So I'm going to go Bobcats. That's my little bonus pick here for these upcoming games this week. SJ, what are you looking at?
I'll keep it quick here. Not a lot. Just kind of maybe going with a little gut here. I'm going to go with the state of South Dakota in the FCS. I'm going to take South Dakota State to cover 1.5 in their matchup there with the semis of the playoffs there. I believe it's the semis. And then South Dakota, I'll take them to cover. They're getting 8 points. So that's a big number in a playoff scenario. So I'll take that. And let's see how we do there with the state of South Dakota.
All right, yeah, get a little jackrabbit coyote action going there. That's all right. By the way, unfortunate little shout I did wanted to throw in there too. Iowa Western came up a little bit short with their chance to try to get the three-peat there in the junior college ranks. But the former quarterback Hunter Deckers, of course, we've had discussions about because of the gambling situation there at Iowa State. He did throw for over 400 yards in that game, but they came up shy and lost their second game of the year to Hutchinson. So hell of a run still.
That's a wacky postseason too. It's like it's like could be playing this day, that day, going this location, that location, that. I know if anybody's seen the Netflix, and that junior college system is crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. All right, that's what we've got for you here. We hope that you have your seat all dusted off, ready to go and enjoy some great college football here with the college football playoff getting underway, and hopefully our picks come through for you. If you want to interact with us, do it on Twitter. You can see the handles there, so give us a shout out, any picks you might have or fine beverages you find here over the weekend that we need to enjoy while we're watching these games. We'd love it if you would like, subscribe, get the notifications here on this channel to get the picks, and then also, of course, like and subscribe and share on the podcast, available on all the major podcast platforms, including here on this YouTube channel, and then also available as well through our main host at Spotify, and then anywhere else that you like to get them. So that's what we've got for you. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of picks here on Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.